Welcome to Inside Carolina's day after the last one of the 2025 season. North Carolina falls 42-19 in Raleigh. I'm Tommy Ashley. This Buck Sanders. This Johnny T-shirt at johnnytshirt.com. And, of course, Jason Staples has joined me. Check out the QR code on the right. If you're watching on a screen that you can screenshot that or take a picture of it, that'll take you to InsideCarolina.com. You can sign up for the premium membership. You're going to need it, folks. It's going to be a hectic couple months here at Inside Carolina and North Carolina football fan base. It is worth having. It is a great Christmas gift. However you want to do it, there's great deals going on right now at InsideCarolina.com. Join up. Buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride if you so like chaos. Buck Sanders, I'll come to you first. We don't need to rehash it. We've agreed on that. There were a couple plays in that ball game last night that absolutely summed up the season, summed up Carolina football. I mean, you know, we see memes for everything and little short videos. I don't want to say it wrong, GIFs, and they were abundant last night that you could say this is 2025 North Carolina football, but we're not going there. But your overall thoughts, where we are, November 30th, 2025.
Well, we talked about this off the air a little bit, and if you've read my column this morning, I don't know, I think maybe up, I talked about really the wrap of the season and how to start thinking about the offseason. I don't think there's any much point in talking about the game from last night. It was a SCHITT show, and not much can be gained by rehashing that dog. So we want to move on and talk about this season and the off season. And to start with, I'll start us off by saying that we always knew that always believed that Bill Belichick to North Carolina was an experiment. I think all three of us have said that at different points, and so have others. And I think what we can say about that so far is that it's still possible for that experiment to work. Now, that may be disappointing some people to hear me say that, but it's true. It could get turned around. Belichick could prove us all wrong. Pull North Carolina. They could do great next year. Who knows? The second thing is, based on what he put on tape in 2025, it's less likely that he's going to succeed than it looked when North Carolina hired him. I think the stock market, Bill Belichick's stock, has headed down since he got hired back in December of 2025. There's so much we could talk about from that point forward. The recruiting class they're going to sign, which I can't wrap my head around these recruiting classes. 39 players and counting right now they have in the class coming up. And that's not going to count the portal. So they only have about 21 guys they can snatch out of the portal, and we'll be back to that 70 number that we had going into this year. There's the potential there's going to be some staff changes. And I think that might make some people feel better. But all in all, those are my two takeaways, that yes, it could still work. I don't want to say that it couldn't, because I'd like to have a back door to crawl out of in case I'm wrong about it. But the other part is, it doesn't look as likely that this experiment is going to be a hit than it did last December.
Jason, quote, it's either going to be really good or really bad. It was really bad this season. If folks remember, Butch Davis went 4-8 in his first season at North Carolina, but it felt like they were on the edge because they played tough, they lost close ball games, all of the above. Jason, the biggest part for me that's been the biggest disappointment is just the lack of everything we expected Belichick would bring to this team and this program. discipline, fundamentals, execution. I said a million times, talent won't get them, or talent might get them, but all the rest will not. And boy, all the rest got them too. And literally every single game, things popped up that we had no idea we'd see, to Buck's point about the experiment. But just let's dig in. Overall thoughts on where they are, what's ahead, what needs to be ahead.
Yeah. First thought is that it appears that North Carolina DNA may be stronger than the Belichick way, right? I mean, the North Carolina program has been what it has been for a good while, and like you said, I mean, I think toward the end there, with Butch Davis, it was really showing signs that was about to change. I'll go to my grave believing that they would have won the national title in 2010 without a single tweet. Or at least they would have been very competitive for it. But aside from that, I mean, like I said, the UNC DNA, football DNA, has been so far stronger than the Belichick way. And you know, I look at what they went out and did and what they've got coming, and I do think if we're looking for hope, if we're looking for the silver lining here, it's that I think this whole group came in. I think the only way to put it, they came in arrogant. They came in overconfident, believing that essentially Bill Belichick moving down to lowly college football would be easy, and that they would obviously they'd be able to flash those rings around, and the best players would obviously all want to come and play for Belichick, and you know they'd get a great quarterback right away, and they'd be able to go in and year one they'd already show signs of what they needed, and then they, on the strength of that overconfidence, they you know, we don't need to rehash all this, but you know, they terminated a bunch of the recruiting office. It was a disaster during that first portal period when the best portal players hit, and you wind up with a season where you don't have the players in place needed to be able to do what you want, and they've been pretty clear about that they just ultimately lacked the personnel to be able to do what they wanted. The silver lining is that, you know, you hope that they learned from that mistake and that they're going to pull out the stops and not make that mistake in the portal and recruiting wise this next cycle. I don't see how bringing in 40 freshmen is going to turn the things around year one, you know, or year two, I guess, year one under those freshmen. That's not going to change things because they're freshmen. This is not like bringing in rookies in the NFL. Rookies in the NFL are a whole lot more prepared for the NFL than freshmen are for college, as a rule, because those guys they've already got a lot of grown man football behind them in college. They're at least they're closer to grown man football. So they're gonna have to bring in. I mean, Buck, you said they're only gonna have 21 guys left before they're at the 70 cap. We might see 80 this year. I mean, I'm kind of cringing at how many new scouting reports I'm going to have to do this offseason, because we're going to see a massive turnover again. And I mean, last year was hard enough trying to find film on these guys and doing all that. It's going to be a bunch again. Now, the question for me is, now that they've kind of learned, how much have they learned their lesson, and how much are they going to be able to go out and attract the top talent that they initially thought was just going to come throwing themselves at Belichick? How much are they going to be able to shift that so that they do get some of those guys? Because, I mean, in college football, it's as simple as this. If you have better players than the other team, you're going to win more of the time than not. So they've got to go and they've got to do that. The bigger problem is a lot of the guys that you really need in the portal, where, you know, they got bullied yesterday up front. They got bullied up front a decent amount of the time this year. The guys that you need that are, you know, third, fourth year grown men on the offensive line who are potential NFL guys and all that, Most of those guys aren't getting in the portal. It's hard to get those guys in the portal. So they're going to have to figure out how to rebuild things up front in a way that's feasible. And that's the hard part, but they can get a lot of those other things fixed if they just bring in some good bodies in the portal. And then it's a matter of whether or not they can learn some of the other lessons from the season.
We're talking with Buck Sanders, Jason Staples on the day after Carolina closes the season 4-8 in Bill Belichick's first year. A lot of turmoil going into the season, roster-wise, a lot expected this season. We'll see how it shakes out. Buck, to Jason's point about getting stuff out of the portal, you better figure out how to retain the ones you want to retain. I don't have a clue what this staff wants to retain after seeing how certain things were done last year and certain things are done during the season. But Jordan Shipp's number one to me. Wide receivers, I don't know their value in the portal or whatever, but certainly his value to North Carolina for a variety of reasons is higher than any portal amount he may cost to me. But your thoughts on that aspect of it? I do want to get into the coaching changes because God knows there's got to be a lot of those, especially on the offensive staff. But just player retention, Buck, and sort of continuity, you got to have it in college, right?
Absolutely. And the thing is not retaining Jordan Shipp, although that's hugely important. For next year, the issue is finding Jordan Shipp's a running mate on that side of in the wide receiver room, because it became apparent in the NC State game. The NC State defense focused on Jordan Shipp and really nobody else. I mean, North Carolina was like a one-trick pony out there. They knew the ball was going to Jordan as often as they could possibly get it to him. So they need somebody else besides Jordan Shipp to step in. Paceor's gone, so whatever help he was, which he was some help at times, gone. And also tight end. They need a difference maker at tight end, and they didn't have that this year. Max Johnson is an okay player, but frankly, as somebody that follows UNC, they've spoiled me about tight ends. They usually have kept several decent tight ends in the lineup. Through the Fedora era and through the Mac Brown era, they always seem to have at least one, if not two, really good tight ends. So they need somebody there. Running back, they could probably use some help there, but how much, and that just remains to be seen, how much was it running back issues, how much was it offensive line issues. And I don't know, I don't have the stats in front of me, Jason probably does, but I don't know how many yards before contact the running backs were able to get this year. So that speaks to whether the offensive line is actually doing their job. So there's those positions. As far as retaining players, obviously Jordan Shipp. There's some people on the defensive side of the ball. I'd like to see them retain. But beyond that, if you look at it, how many first-team All-ACC players is on this UNC team this year?
Currently?
Bingo.
So maybe one. You might have Abu Jaude up for that potentially, based on stats.
Okay. And if not first team, maybe second team. How many second team players? How many second team All-ACC players?
There's only one guy that's on any of those teams.
So as far as retaining players, the danger of them not retaining a player like Bo Atkinson is not really there this year so much. Abu Jade, yes. But, as far as losing people to the portal, in some cases, I'll go over and help them pack some bags, if necessary.
Buck's moving services.
I mean, hey, I got a
Buck in the truck.
pickup and an SUV, so I'm, I can multi-purpose.
That's not impermissible benefits if Inside Carolina specifically sponsors a moving service for those on
Is
the
there
way
any
out,
such
right?
thing as impermissible benefits anymore in the NIL era?
They'd figure it out. They'd figure out a way to throw that flag on Carolina one way or
Probably so. But so I think probably the all they can do is improve their roster. Now, some of the younger skill players in the freshman class would have a chance to contribute. We've seen that in the past. Where athleticism is far more important than size and strength and those things. But Jason had a point, and Tommy, you were right there with him. As far as like the NFL goes, you do not see true freshmen very often start for a college team. In the NFL, you see rookies starting all the time. New England started a rookie left tackle. Of course, he was a high draft pick, but it happens in that situation. Although they're going to need to get some offensive linemen, and probably their best bet is to do a great job evaluating players that are at a lower level and bringing them up rather than try to poach somebody off of you're not going to probably poach somebody off a Power 4 team. And maybe a decent G5 team, you might get one or two. But as far as filling in and I'm not one of those that completely faults the players for their lack of production this year. A lot of that has to do with how you're used. And on the offensive side of the ball, do we really know what they have based on the offense they were in? So there's a multitude of intertwining questions there, personnel-wise, as far as the portal goes and as far as recruiting goes, and as far as the staff changes go. All those things are interrelated.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I think you have to figure out your best players, retain them, like I mentioned, the continuity in the locker room, and just having some semblance of pride for the team you play for, the university you play for. I mean, it's hard when it's a revolving door. Jason, your thoughts there? I mean, you mentioned Melcar, obviously, is that guy can probably name his price at this point. And I don't blame him if he does whatever's best for him and his family. I certainly would, especially in this day and age. And, like I said multiple years ago, if that was my child playing quarterback instead of Drake May, they'd have been playing for the highest bidder. And that's just how I am this day and age, especially. But Buck talks about helping guys pack and whatever, but you can't go get 100 new players. It doesn't work that way. So Jason,
they can.
Well, they can. And then we'll be talking about
and they
this
have.
And that excuse will be the same excuse they use next year when we're sitting here doing this again. And so how do you fix it, Jason? Is it possible to fix it? I'm not going to coaching yet. We're getting the coaching aspect of it. But player-wise, you got to keep some of the dudes, and then you've got to build in. And I don't think it happens with 40 high school guys. But Jason, go.
I mean, I think again, you have to identify where you can actually most profitably add difference makers, and essentially what you have the budget for on that. Buck, they averaged just under 1.3 yards per rush before contact, which honestly is not that bad. If you're getting a little over a yard. Let's see, I'm sorry, is 1.27. So 1.27 yards per rush before contact. That's not that bad.
Where would that rank? Where would that rank nationally, do you think?
Let me find out. I'll when you do your next you're next talking, I'll get back to you on that. So my next segment, I'll have that. But I mean, that's not bad. Usually, 1.2 areas is fine. But the problem is that when you have a total on the season, including 15 from Gio Lopez, 53 missed tackles forced. What
There's
you have
not
to
a lot of
find,
wiggle.
yeah, there's not much wiggle.
Hollywood Smothers had more than that by himself for NC State.
What you have to find and what they've got to do is they've got to figure out how they can add a few difference makers to this team. That's it. So we've talked about this in the past. On defense, you have to have, in general, the rule of thumb is you need at least one difference maker for each level, right? You want at least one difference maker on the defensive line, preferably 2 or 3 or 4, right? You want as many as you can get. You need one at linebacker, and then you need one in your secondary, and that changes the way that you can call your defenses. Because if you have a lockdown corner where you can do the Deion Sanders thing and say, okay, that guy's out, the offense can't look at him or they're potentially going to turn it over. If you got a defensive line where it's like they're going to have to double team him on every play or he's going to wreck shop. If you have a linebacker where it's like, okay, we need to circle that guy and know where he is and make sure we get an extra body on it. If you can do those things, it changes you defensively. And the thing is, that's 3 guys out of 11 that changes your defense. The same is true on offense. If you have a Drake May on offense, it changes everything else. Every single other thing in your offense. You could be pretty average everywhere else, and if you have a Drake May, you're going to be decent. If you have a Drake May and then you add a true number 1 receiver, now all of a sudden they're having to really work because they're going to have to double that guy. And now everybody else is going to be one-on-one, and that guy's going to be able to continue to put the ball on the money to some average guys. But somebody's going to be open. If you add to that a difference maker at running back, now you got 3 difference makers on your offense, and you're average on the offensive line, but suddenly you're scoring 35 points a game, 40 points a game, because you've got Omarion Hampton, Drake May, and a number 1 wide receiver. So they've got to figure out, where can we add a difference maker? And I think they do need to add, if they're going to run this kind of offense, they have to have a difference maker. I mean, they're pretty average, couple maybe on the edge of above average at running back, but I'd say they're average at running back. If they're going to run an offense that looks anything like what they were trying to do schematically this year, they've got to have a difference maker at running back. They've got to have the closest thing to Ashton Genty or Omarion Hampton that they could possibly get. They've got to find that guy, and then they've got to make sure that he's in good shape there. Beyond that, you find the best possible quarterback that money can buy, and you build around him. And I think a lot of the rest of things just kind of fall into place after that. But they've got to find ways of identifying, okay, we believe that this guy in what we do is going to be a difference maker. And you disproportionately invest in a few difference makers, and then you build around them with solid pieces that can be good team players and buy into what you're doing. That's what they have to do.
You mortgage the farm for a quarterback, an elite quarterback somehow. The problem is, it's not like the video game where you can just go raise up the ratings and build them. You got to find one, Buck. Which brings me to the coaching question. Jason mentioned if they're going to try to keep running what they're trying to run, they cannot. This cannot. When the staff changes, news comes out. If it comes out, when it starts coming out, it's got to be completely on the offensive side to start with. You got to clean house on that side, Buck. You got to get somebody in that building that knows college offenses, that runs a college scheme, and that can effectively do that. Am I wrong? Am I wrong thinking that they need to clean house on the offensive side? I think the best 2 coaches on the staff are Diaco on defensive line and Garrick McGee, wide receivers coach. Everybody else is expendable, except maybe some family members, which we can talk about that too. But Buck, your thoughts?
Your ranking.
You got on the line, on the rushing?
Yep. So this is yards before contact per rush. Number 1 in the country is Utah at 3.03, which is an absurd number, by the way. Number 2 is Arkansas at 2.92. North Carolina, it's actually, they ranked worse than I thought they would with that number, 60th. And this is against, what I did is I limited this to Power 4 versus Power 4. So this is only ranking Power 4 programs. So that means you're out of 68. So 60th out of 68 Power 4 programs, and this is only against Power 4 competition. So I'm ruling out, against Sisters of the Poor or, Charlotte or whomever. That's out. So within the ACC, the best was Georgia Tech at 2.47, which is also really, really good. And then followed by SMU at 2.32 and Louisville at 2.3. So a full yard behind basically the best in the ACC, and about the median, the midpoint there is Iowa at 1.77. So about half a yard less per carry prior to contact than the average or median team in the Power 4 versus Power 4. So there's your number.
Cool.
But
cool. Back to your
coaching.
question, Tommy. Yeah. Here's I don't know what I would say this number is. And the number I'm thinking of is, let's say North Carolina goes out and signs Chip Kelly, who's out there free floating in the ether as an offensive coordinator candidate. How many points a game would Chip Kelly be worth over what we had this year? 5, maybe 4, 5. I don't know what that number is, but it would be something.
Is he making the play calls correctly? Is he forgetting play calls? Which Chip Kelly are we getting?
Well, that remains to be seen. But I don't know that we're getting a Chip Kelly at all. I think it would be good if we did, because he would be one of the guys who would be able to look at Bill Belichick and say, I'll come and join your staff, but I'm just going to have a free hand. I can't work within a system with handcuffs on. Anybody else that he hires, or several people that he could hire, would come and Belichick would say, okay, this is the offense I want to see you run. And it would be the same offense he wanted Freddie Kitchens to run. So it has to have somebody with enough gravitas that they can seize the reins of the offense without a ton of interference. I mean, he's the head coach, and so obviously he gets a say in it. But, it has to be somebody that has the wherewithal to call its own plays and not be dictated to in terms of, no, don't throw the ball, it's too dangerous, blah, 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 whatever. So Kelly would fit into that category. I don't know who else is out there that does. I haven't done the research. I haven't come up with a list. But that's one of the characteristics I would be looking for. And when I evaluate this hire, how likely is this person going to be able to call his own shots? One of the people I would snatch up in a heartbeat if I could get my hands on him, which North Carolina would not be able to, would be Sam Pittman as offensive line coach. He's out there, or last time I checked, he was out there. There are other people names like that would give me a tingle if they would be able.
Sunday bingo card.
Well, hey, a tingle is a tingle. It doesn't have to be meaning you have a bad connotation, I mean,
a tingle in the cockles of your heart.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh
so,
my Lord.
There are some people that he could get that I'd be excited about. Does that make you feel better?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I felt good either way, Buck, just so you know.
I expected that really from you, Jason, be honest. You might have got a tingle when I said tingle. I don't know. But that's the bottom line for me. Somebody just raised the name of Dave Clawson as offensive coordinator. Not sure how I feel about that, but he would probably have the ability to say that, this is the kind of offense I want to run, and Belichick might give him free rein to do that. So I think that's the most important part of the whole situation. The other pieces of the offense, true confession time, I've never been really able to tell too much about running back coaches in terms of their influence on an offense. Recruiting, yes, they can have a big impact. Teaching the fundamentals, yes, they can have a big impact. Those kinds of things. But as far as the actual schematic makeup of an offense, I don't think so. I've never really seen it. So, yeah, you're going to have somebody that can develop, especially it'd be very important with the incoming freshman running backs to have somebody that can get them on track. So that's where I'm at with that.
Jason, thoughts on offensive staff? I mean, you're going to have a new offensive coordinator. If you're not, everybody's asked me this, and I'm going to stay and get out of the way. Everybody said, what needs to happen for the fan base and for the excitement around the program to be regenerated so that come August of 2026, everybody's back on board? I said, you got to find an elite quarterback. Could have been one on the roster. I don't know. It might be a North Carolina kid on the roster. It could have been that guy. Who knows? Don't know. But you got to have an elite quarterback, and you got to have a new offensive staff that can generate excitement. Those are the two things to me. Your take on that, and what do you think as far as the way this goes in the offseason?
Yeah, as far as there being an elite quarterback on the roster, I'll just say this: if there is an elite quarterback on the roster, then this year was a case study in roster mismanagement. Because if there was a guy if there's a guy that was elite on this that could be elite on this roster and he just sat.
Who looked better, Newkirk or Johnson?
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't really tell much of a difference. I think Max Johnson, what he's been able to do to come back and stay a part of that team speaks to him as a human being and a person. Play-wise, I'm not sure the point of putting him in that game last night when you're trying to see what you've got. Obviously, they do not care about trying to see what they have for next year. Not that I saw. And I thought that would have been a good opportunity in a bad environment, a tough environment, to see what you had. But I don't know. Jason, you might disagree with that, but I didn't understand the Max Johnson pull there.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm at a point, I was at a point where, like, look, by about middle of early second quarter, it was obvious that they were not winning that football game. I mean, anyone with eyes after that game went 14-0 was like, well, they're getting bullied up front. This does not look like it's going to end well. And then once they got to 21, it's like, all right, the remainder of this game, if you're going to play this smart, to me, and you're playing for the long term, you're starting to evaluate. And the moment Gio Lopez went down, I'm thinking, all right, well, here's your opportunity. Play both of the young guys. Let's find out what they have in Raleigh in a hostile situation. This one game ain't going to break them. Let's find out. If you have to alternate drives or whatever, let's find out what the young guys have right now. And they didn't. And I do think,
and you don't know until you try, and you don't know until you see them with live bullets. You just don't.
Right. You might have an idea.
And you don't have the bowl practices that you would have had and all that kind of stuff to get more reps and all that. It was the perfect opportunity to find out. Hell, even Mac Brown did it against Wofford a couple of years ago, where he played Criswell for a half and Drake May for a half. I mean, it's not rocket science, and they just refused. I've got opinions about why on one of those quarterbacks, but anyway.
Me
Jason,
too. I want to hear your opinion because I bet you it matches mine. But
it chimes.
Yeah. So my opinion, for what it's worth, is that they've preferred the player that they discovered.
Yes, 100%.
And it's that.
And they don't want to be wrong or
Yep.
proven wrong on the field. But yeah, I mean, why would you not give a whole wealth of guys on the roster? I mean, they only dress so many, but get guys out there that you need to see if they can play, because they're going to be expensive in the portal if you have to go get another one, and they just refuse to do it. And we didn't want to talk about this game specifically, but that's been the thing all year, is the refusal to bend off of what allegedly worked at a different level than it is now. And that goes back to the arrogance comment earlier, I think, Jason.
Yep.
But I mean, offensive staff, it's got to be flipped. You got to flip it. You have to. It's got to be first up this week, today, in my opinion. What do you think?
I mean, I would like to see it, but I'm not being paid Bill Belichick money. And again, I want to put it out there. Just in case any of the brain trust from UNC is out there, I'm happy to take over this job for like $250,000 and hire the best possible staff around me, and then put a ton of money towards the best roster money can buy. And I'm betting you that me as a CEO coach with the best roster that money can buy, and putting an extra $10 million towards players, I'm going to go off of my old coaches saying, the way to be a better coach than the guy on the opposite side is to have better players than him. I'm betting you give me better players than Bill Belichick, and I'm still betting on my better players. So just saying. But yeah, I would like to see some major changes. And again, getting back to the quarterbacks, we've talked about this before, and there's a lot of discussion about whether or not about who's making the decisions of which players play. And, there's been rumblings behind the scenes that essentially Lombardi is the primary guy who essentially dictates which players are playing. Now, and it's not the assistant coaches and so on. So if Belichick and Lombardi are the ones who discovered, quote unquote, Torrey Newkirk, you can kind of do the math there. And if there was one assistant coach who would be most primed to listen to Elder Lombardi saying, okay, that's the guy that we're going to really invest in, which assistant would that be? Maybe his son? So, yeah, that's my hypothesis in this, is that, we've all seen this before, that when new coaches take over, their guys get preferential advantages. And, I've just wondered from the jump whether Baker is kind of considered a Mac Brown guy, even though he was there. They came in before he was actually signed. But in any case, what I don't understand, like you said, is, and look, Max came in, and I thought the offense looked better under Max. They moved it better with him, which again is further an indictment on how things went all season. Now, he did have the one throw that was a dropped interception that was just an atrocious decision. But aside from that one throw, you go, well, they moved it better with him. He actually ran better. That was a kind of crazy thing given what happened to his leg last year. He ran it more efficiently and fluidly than Gio had. But even with that, I just look at this and I say, you're not getting any benefit from him playing at this point. Gio gets hurt. It's your opportunity. Okay, you believe Newkirk is the next guy? Play him for 3 drives. Play Baker for 3 drives. You figure out what you've got in Raleigh pretty easily at that point. And I just think you're better off, because that's the most expensive position. Find out a little bit more. And like you said, Tommy, you can't really truly know until guys have been seen with live bullets. I mean, I saw the film of the practices of the scrimmages from 2013 Florida State when they had Jake Coker and Jameis Winston competing for that job. And from the scrimmage performances and general performance and drills and all that, there really wasn't a big difference. I mean, it would have been a very hard decision to make. And then you watch Jameis Winston once he got into live play and you go, okay, that guy's special. Like, that guy's different. But they were very similar. Like, they weren't all that different in those practice reps. You needed to see Jameis in live action to go, oh, oh, all right. So, sometimes you have to see the live bullets fly, especially at that position, because you're, usually scrimmaging without those guys getting hit. And once they can get hit, you find out a lot about them. Now, Jake was a good player, by the way. Remember, he won a national title at Alabama a couple of years later. So, don't get me wrong on that. But yeah, I'm just frustrated by that aspect of things and by the insistence that I don't know. There's just, to me, it's the short-sightedness of it, where you've got a sixth-year player that isn't going to play again. You've got a game that is already lost, and those are the decisions that you make. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote in my column, and we reported on in South Carolina. It's old news that there was some disagreements in the rooms around which quarterbacks to play throughout the course of the year, maybe leading into the season. But it's neither here nor there at this point. We're talking to Buck Sanders, Jason Staples here on the day after. Shout out. 500 plus people come to commiserate with the day after crew here. Carolina finishes 4-8, 2-6. But what else? What changes? Well, I don't know the best way to ask the question, but what do you want to see? You've done this and you followed this forever. What moves the needle for you? Obviously, there's not much to make it go up a little bit because I do like what Jordan Shipp said. He said the good thing about the bottom is it's pretty sturdy foundation to build on, and Carolina feels like they're there. I don't know how you can get much worse. You lose to Wake, Duke, and State at the end of the season. First time since 88, 89 they've done that. Lost to all three rivals. You're not competitive in any game that against a team that won more than 5 games on the season, which is incredible. Your 4 wins are Richmond, Charlotte, Stanford, and Syracuse. 4 of the worst college football teams this season across various levels. But what moves the needle for you now? We got a long time until August, to Ireland.
I think that for me, and maybe this is a good thing, I'm not sure. The thing that can move the needle the quickest for UNC football for next year, and they're going to need to move it pretty quickly because they play a much tougher schedule next year than they played this year by far, is the offensive system. There was no schematic identity to this year's UNC offense. And we have been massively spoiled at UNC when we were watching offenses under Drake and Sam and during the Fedora era, except for the tail end of that, to watch offensive coordinators and quarterbacks and offensive systems that you can easily identify and understand what they're trying to do. And, you can recruit to that. You can find players that fit well into that system. If you don't know what kind of system you have or want, or if it's just, listen, I want you to go out there and run 55 plays today. That's not a system. So I think the offense is the most important piece of what they've got going on. And there has to be somebody that knows what they're doing and can put some points on the board. 19 points a game is not going to cut it. You cannot score 19.4 points per game and expect to win very many games when you're now giving up 24.5 points per game. That sounds like a losing proposition. It's like the person that spends way more money than they earn. Eventually that catches up to them. So you've got to find some way to get the revenue flowing in on offense. And there's a lot of connotations to that, but you've got to be able to put some points on the board. And not only have they not done it, Belichick doesn't seem to have the inclination to want to do it. He just wants to hold on to the ball as long as he possibly can on offense. And that's how it appears. That's how it feels, really, when you're watching a game, is that the point is not to move the ball down the field, but to hold on to it as long as possible. So get the right person on the offensive side of the ball. Get a quarterback he can work with. Get a running back or two that has a little bit of wiggle and is a threat to take it to the house. Get Jordan Shipp a running mate. Get a tight end. And then all of a sudden, maybe you can be competitive against some of those teams that you're going to see next year. That schedule, of course, let me say this now. Who I thought was going to be great in the offense in the ACC this year, I was way off the mark there. I mean, who knows? I mean, Clemson could be a 1-11 team next year. We don't know.
Samsonite.
But
we're going to go, instead of predictions, we're going to have suggestion shows. I mean, it's just killing us. Jason, what moves the needle? What moves the needle? But I think we're in agreement. Offense, quarterback, all that kind of stuff is what moves the needle for the fan base. You got to figure out a way to generate some excitement, because right now it is floating in the abyss for the definitely for the average fan, and for those that have pumped in millions of dollars. I mean, the thing I've learned about rich folks is they don't like wasting or losing money, and what's the saying? You don't chase good money after bad. Whatever. What moves the needle, Jason?
Yeah, I don't think rich folks are any different from those of us on the lower income of this lower side of the income spectrum on that either. I mean, I don't know anybody that likes to lose money, but
depends on what we're doing it for. I know a lot of people that lost a lot of money on this football season.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, not one of them is happy. And I'll just say this: I told my wife after the game last night, I said, it's bad when the season is over and I'm actually relieved, like that I'm actually happy that the season is over.
Yeah, you got double whammy too.
Oh yeah, well that's a whole different story. But look, you all who watch us do this, and you read our stuff and all of this over at Inside Carolina. You guys know we work hard. You all know, like, it's less fun to cover teams that look like this. It just is. Right? It's less fun to try to polish a turd or to discuss the various, types of and shapes and odors of the stool that you've been given. Right? Okay, well, this sample suggests that, you've got intestinal parasites.
And I
of this
get
type.
trouble for saying tingle.
Fair enough.
What?
But I mean, this is what we've found ourselves doing, is trying to evaluate, okay, well, what kind of disease of the bowels are we dealing with here? And what needs to be fixed? And that's no fun. And what you're saying in terms of people, in terms of getting the excitement back up and all of that, I think the biggest thing comes back to college football is mostly is a uniquely American thing, and Americans like points. Americans like to see points scored, right? Americans like to see, and this is why they've changed the game so that, it's harder to play defense. Defenses are disadvantaged. Americans like points. And what really, really gets depressing for people to watch is, in an era where teams move the ball up and down the field with some consistency, scoring fewer than 20 points per game. What's going to get them? What's going to get people excited? Changes on offense that suggest, all right, with that quarterback, with that wide receiver who can really fly, and with that running back and that guy, and then that guy calling plays, there's no way we're scoring fewer than 30, 35 points a game. That will get people excited. But God, I mean, if next year we find ourselves again discussing a team that's struggling to score 20 points a game, no one wants to see that. Like, that's miserable. Even, and don't, again, I know this may be surprising to some, even our very own Greg Barnes doesn't enjoy watching a team struggle to score 20 points. It's just not fun. And so that's what has to change. You have to get enough excitement to say, we're going to have guys that break tackles. We're going to have opportunities to, get big plays down the field. There's going to be points scored. And not just by them. That's the excitement. That's where you get the change there.
45, 42 games are much more enjoyable to watch than the stuff we've seen this season. I don't think there's any contest to that, unless you're Greg Barnes, and I think most of that's an act from Greg. Buck, I don't have anything left. I mean, I've said my piece. I think you clean house on one side of the ball, and they always talk about evaluating everything. Well, you need to evaluate where this ship is heading, and after a 4-8 season, it's going to take a lot of pulling on the wheel to turn it around. Good thing is you can do it in college football. Everybody points to Indiana. Everybody points to the teams that have flipped it in one season. It just seems different in Chapel Hill sometimes. Maybe that's the old cynic in me. Buck, I'll let you close out the last day after of the 2025 season.
I think all year long, and even before the season started, one of the things that we always had in the back of our mind, on the tip of our tongue, was proof of concept. We'd like to see some proof of concept out of this team, out of this new 33rd NFL football team. And here we are, the season's over with. We still haven't seen proof of concept. So far, all I've seen that is carried over from NFL Belichick to college Belichick is he has absolute disdain for the media. He just, that's the only thing that I've seen, that the direct correlation between what he did in the NFL and what he's doing at the college level is he hates reporters. And, that's, I guess, his privilege. But, when you're trying to excite a fan base, the other concept, these two kind of blend together, you're trying to get a fan base reinvigorated. You don't do that by not having good media relations. That it doesn't happen that way. So that's my final comment about the whole "this is fine" meme from those who think that UNC is okay and will get better.
What do you think, Buck? What do you think Belichick's reaction is going to be when someone informs him here over the next few days that UNC is not going to get the top pick in the draft this year?
He'll probably say, "Well, damn, I should have lost to Syracuse."
It is on a serious note, it's been fun, boys. We've been doing these a long time, and I tweeted something about it's not about the losses, it's about everything else that this season has encompassed. To get those losses is what's got people frustrated, and it's not about the losses with us, because Lord knows we've done plenty of these shows after Carolina has lost football games. I'd be interested to see. I think if the math's correct, I think we do shows after losses about 48% of the time since we've been doing these. So we certainly understand how to handle that aspect of it. North Carolina's got a lot to work on. As Bill Belichick says, we got a lot to work on. That is going to be a long offseason. It's going to be a fruitful and busy offseason. You need to be a part of Inside Carolina to handle it and to be kept up about it. Somebody asked for a postmortem. Gene Triplehorn in the chat said, "Are we doing a postmortem?" This is pretty much it. We'll see how it goes over the next few days. Yes, we're planning on doing a signing day show with Don Callahan. Of course, Coast to Coast basketball crew will be on later tonight, and we've got plenty of basketball coverage as well. But as far as Inside Carolina football coverage, sign up for InsideCarolina.com. Get your text alerts rolling so you can get all the information as quickly as possible, because there's going to be news. It's always going to be that way on any off season these days, but especially now with North Carolina's bad season is officially over in Raleigh. I entitled it "Run Over." It's pretty much what has happened this season for North Carolina football. Buck Sanders, as always, appreciate it. Jason Staples, as always, appreciate it. We'll be back soon enough here on Inside Carolina, talking about Carolina football and where it goes from here. Thanks, boys.
On to basketball season.
Yep, and thank you to everybody that has watched all season. We've had amazing crowds all year on these shows. It has been fascinating to see the support that folks give for Inside Carolina. We'll be back.